Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Lamar's Library, and today I have an exciting book that I just finished, hot off the press, hot off the library. I guess it's kind of old in terms of when it was released, but the book is none other than The Great Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Let me get a nice picture. Alright. Yeah, so this book, it was a thick book, but we got through it within 2 weeks, so that was good. Yeah, what can I say about this book? This book is the first of a trilogy, and it's set in pre-Columbian, Mesoamerican kind of influenced type of culture, and there is, I would say, three main characters, but there's also some other characters that we get the perspective of in the different clans and whatnot. There's 4 clans, I believe. Yeah, there's 4 clans, Sky Made clans, and there's also the Earth Made clan of the Coyotes Ma. Yeah, this book was amazing, honestly. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't think I'm going to read the rest of the series. I know, because I have a lot of books on my TBR, and you know how things are and things like that. So yeah, but I will definitely read another book from Rebecca Roanhorse, because this book, honestly, it made me excited, it made me sad, it made me feel like a flurry of different emotions, and I feel like the world building in this book alone was masterful. The prose and the way that she was able to breathe life into these ancient cultures, albeit fantastical elements were imbued, it was still definitely felt like reverent of, you know, the wisdom and the skills and expertise that was present in these cultures in the time of prior to Columbus arriving. Yeah, I liked the cover. I think the cover is beautiful, and it also kind of looks like a painting that I did a while ago, even before this book was maybe created or published or whatever. I had a painting that was similar, which I felt like was kind of like a resonance of artwork and whatnot, even though it was somebody else who obviously did the art. And I also have, a resonance with crows and ravens and stuff, so I feel like all those things were very beautifully imbued into this book, as the crow god, the Odo Sedo, was reborn, or attempted to be reborn. I don't know. I do know, but I don't want to spoil it. This book, the fantastical elements were beautiful. The fact that there was also this character who was bisexual, and she was cool. She was like a sea-dwelling, seafaring sailor character that also had a magic system of her own, which was her voice. And let me just read the synopsis, and then I'll go from there. Book 1 of the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, inspired by the civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas, and woven into a tale of celestial prophecies, political intrigue, and forbidden magic. A god will return when the sky and earth converge under the black sun. In the holy city of Tova, the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration and renewal, but this year it coincides with the solar eclipse, a rare celestial event prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Zayala, is a disgraced Teak whose song can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries 1 passenger, described as harmless. The passenger, Serapio, is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Zayala well knows, a man is described as harmless. When a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. It's crafted with unforgettable characters. Rebecca Roanhorse's epic adventure exploring the decadence of power amidst the weight of history and the struggle of individuals swimming against the confines of society and their broken pasts is the most original series debut of the decade. And it was a beautiful series debut. It was, for sure. What else can I say about this book? I wrote some quotes. I know that's always a good thing. Just some things that kind of stood out to me in different passages and phrases, and I wrote a few pages, quotes, probably like 4 pages, but I'm not gonna read it all. It was, let me read some of my favorite shorter ones. He had an otherworldliness about him, much like herself. She could practically touch the magic rolling off of him, and it made her wonder who he was, what he was. And another one I liked was, we are Teak, which means the people, and our ways are Teak, and our islands Teak. That all is the same. There is no difference between yourselves and the land. We call the water Al Teak, our mother, constant, life-giving, sustaining. Teak does not have fathers. We call the sky her lover, fickle, ever-changing, sometimes cold and sometimes very hot indeed. And I think that was a beautiful passage to, describe the Teak people, which were kind of like the seafaring, sea maiden type of people, or descendants of, and they were, describing their relationship with the land and how they perceived and relate to the world around them, which they didn't see as indistinguishable from that of themselves, which I found was very beautiful, and a way that kind of, honored and continues to honor indigenous worldviews that ultimately, were pushed to the side in the mainstream of the society that we live in now, and the ways of the earth and the land and the whispers of the land are no longer honored as much in different parts of the world. So it was beautiful that the author was able to imbue those types of worldviews into, the story. Another quote I liked, excuse my dog. Something crashed against the benches, heavy and wet, and she glimpsed scales, black and shimmering, iridescent in the rain. And that was, I guess, in regards to also the Teak. Another quote. This is a weird nesting thing. Okay, just lie down. Lie down, all the way. Lie down, come on. Okay, don't mind her. The sky had become a black wall, a living, undulating, screeching wall of feathers and claws and beaks that was descending on them like a nightmare. And I thought that was a nice passage too. I don't want to read the big blurbs and stuff, because it would take too much. Look at this one. This is the last page I've written. I know my handwriting is small sometimes. I like this. I'll read this one actually, because this I think is beautiful and relevant. It is said that thousands of years ago, our world was once populated with gods. They are our ancestors. But there was a great war, the God War, and many were killed. Those who were not killed in the war began to die anyway. Some say they were overcome with regret and withered. Others say they lived, but they grew lonely and went into the far north, never to be seen again. And still others say they returned to the sky, which was their home before they came to earth. Wherever their blood was spilled or their bodies lay, great wonders happened. Mountain ranges burst from flat lands. Rivers rushed water like divine blood. Stars were born in cataclysm, and in everything they left bits of their power. The sun and stars, the creatures of earth and air, the very rocks and rivers and seas. Once humans discovered that the objects, places, and creatures around them held power, they began to manipulate them for their own desires. Many societies call that witchcraft, pulling power from one source and putting it into another, usually an object for your own use, like an amulet or a potion. The sorcery of the Quacolans and the southern coast is similar, only they also complement the power transferred through blood and sacrifice to achieve ends that witchcraft cannot fathom. The priests reject it all, saying that their study of the sun and stars is the reason saying that their study of the sun and stars is reason and not magic. But my old tutor believed it was not always so. For them and the priests have only forgotten their magic. And I feel like that is relevant in terms of religion stripping the magical realism elements of the real life of spirituality. Spirituality is the unknown, and God speaks to each of us, through different facets and mediums. And witchcraft inherently of itself is not bad as an isolated neutral force, but can either be used, for good or for evil. And I feel like that's what humans do in terms of manipulating what can once be seen as neutral or could be used as good and manipulating it for their own desires to then become something more sinister and sinful. But this is also, I think, the last quote that I wrote from this book. I am something else. Although sorcery was used in my making, I am an avatar of a god. I am the object, the vessel, that contains power. But unlike the sun or a stone or the sea, I am, as you say, a man. But not just a man, Zayala. Don't make that mistake. I am also a god. And then she shuddered or shivered or whatever, I paraphrase. And then heard the beating wings in his voice and remembered the feel of his magic, his power. And then another thing that I think was beautiful, he wears his people's pain, and it is strangely beautiful. And I think that all kind of, sums up the book in terms of sacrifice and what it means to go to the lengths to bring justice and, potential like reparations for your people that maybe either aren't any longer here or that you've never met, ultimately, because the main character, Serapio, who became the Crow God, never actually met the tribe and the clan that he was willing to give his life for. And I feel like that's a beautiful testimony to, his devotion of his faith, but also sometimes when it's comes to vengeance and revenge and who's actually the villain in the story of, if your people are massacred and their laws that be, the powers that be, aren't in alignment, with the good of all and have corruption inherent in their composition. If you were to take those powers out, like, who would really be the villain? Would it be the person taking the corruption out, or would it be the corruption of the system itself and the people that play a part and wear their masks? So the juxtapositions, I can see how I set up the trope and the trajectory for the next book. But again, I'm not gonna dwell into the second book because I'm not planning on reading it. There's a lot of books to read, a lot of books to see, a lot of books to write, a lot of books to, go about and do stuff and consume and enrich your imagination and your curiosity and, different books. Another day, another book. So, yeah, I don't think I have anything else more to say other than I liked it a lot, and I would rate it 4.6 4.6 stars. 4.6 stars. Yeah. I think the only thing I would change, because like there was like a romance type of element that was kind of woven into the plot, and I think it did make up for it in the end of the book when it was kind of like finally accumulated. But I feel like you can tell the pacing was kind of slow. It was more focused on like the world building and like the like development of the descriptions of like where we were versus like getting to the point of the plot, which was like saved for like the last like 50 pages of the book. But it was very like politically confounded, and like like different elements were moving, and there was like betrayals and this and that, so it was very stimulating and intriguing and beautifully written overall. So I appreciated the book, and I would definitely recommend it. You guys might have read it already because it's been out for a while, but if you haven't, definitely check it out. I would recommend it. And with that, let me know if you have any books to recommend. I have a list of books that I'm going to read that are my spirit kind of pulls me to intuitively, that I can draw inspiration or feel like interested and intrigued in. So I kind of naturally kind of gravitate to whichever book I fancy. But if you have any within the realm of what I've been reading thus far, definitely link it down below, or comment if you've read this book. Let me know your favorite part, if the other 2 books are good, if I should check them out. I don't know. Right now I'm probably not gonna do that for a while, but yeah, thank you so much for your time. If you've watched this far, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll check you guys out next time. Peace.